What's up, everybody? This is Brad with Tabletop Life, and I am joined by Jaime. I will not call him Jamie anymore. I'm going to call him by his real name and the one and only Mr. Damien Owen. So, we just recently played at the Cool Place Triple Threat Throwdown. I know it's a crazy name. You gotta it's like a tongue twister. It was a three man team GT down in Albany, Georgia, and yeah, that's what we did last weekend. We went down there. We drove down south, and I guess Damien flew across the country.
I did.
So he flew all the way from Idaho and then drove down south. So yeah, it was there was 28 teams there. There was some notable players and notable teams and stuff. Like Mark Perry had a team, John Lennon had a team, Matt Root had a team. The Eastern Tennessee crews came down with Andrew Gardenheimer and Zeke and Brad White. So if you're from the kind of southeastern region, most of the players that you would expect would go to tournaments were kind of there from kind of the Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Florida area. So yeah, lots of good talent there, lots of good teams and crews and stuff like that. We had our eyes on specific teams that we watched were specifically like these are going to be the harder matches, the teams to beat per se. So let's kind of get into it. What we're going to do is we're going to step through round by round, and we're going to go over our pairings, and then we're going to go over kind of a highlight for each of our games to kind of just shine a light on like kind of the cool stuff, whether it's a cool play you did, something that like a single model did or a single unit, a game-changing moment, anything like that. So round one. We're gonna cruise through this one kind of briefly. We got paired up against a team that had an unfortunate circumstance. One of their teammates actually went to open up their case, and their army was not there right before the event, so they had to drive a couple hours away and go and get the list. So they missed the first couple rounds, which is unfortunate. But we let them pick who they wanted to play in the tables and stuff, and we still had to play our games out. We took it serious. We got a little bit of extra content out of it. It was all fun and cool, and we were able to pull out the win still. So it was a good time. So we didn't really do any pairings there. We just kind of let them pick their thing. Not much to talk about on round one, except Draz soloed a knight. You can go watch that moment on the YouTube channel. There's nothing else to say there.
Worth watching because that night player threw everything he had
Yes.
at Draz.
Yeah, you can see every single strat he interrupted. He did all these stratagems. You can go watch all the
Go watch it.
specifics.
Go
I don't
watch
want to
it.
get a ton into that one, but it was a very very crazy moment. Draz now has a knight trophy that he can carry around with him. So we make it through that round. We go on to round two. uh, we go, okay, who we play in round two? Oh, okay, we're playing John Lennon's team. We're just like, all right, well, this is a match that we were hoping to be further down the road or a finals match or something like that. But
Yeah,
you know what? We're just gonna take it round two. Um, so
it had to be done.
it had to be done. So what was our game plan going into it on the matches that we wanted, right? So like what matches did
So
we
yeah.
want? Who did we think that
Mhm.
that we were gonna get?
So they were playing. John Lennon has his Ultramarines list. He's been having a lot of success at tournaments. He's won a couple of GTs and majors with it. So like we knew exactly what this can do. It's tailored to destroy Drukhari. So that was the first matchup that we wanted to avoid. Then they had a all-rounders sisters list. And they had that Drukhari list that had the 9 Chronos in it. And for anyone who hasn't played against Chronos are ridiculously tanky. They're T7 around a homunculus, a 7 wound, 6 up invuln, 5 up invuln when they kill something, and a 5 off Pain. They can heal when they kill models, they can grow back models if they kill a model at the correct time. Ridiculously tanky. So we were hoping to avoid Drukhari into Lennon and trying to get, I think we said that we wanted Admech into the Drukhari.
Yeah, yeah, because we think that they had the best chance of
Mm-hmm.
killing the Chronos and dealing with them and not
Mm-hmm.
being super
Yeah.
affected by them.
Mm-hmm. So we put up you as our defender because we wanted to make sure you weren't forced into the Lennon matchup.
Yep.
And they defended with who was the defender? The Drukhari.
It was the
Their Drukhari was
Drukhari.
the defender.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought it was
Yeah.
going to be Lennon. We thought they were going to put
Yeah.
Lennon up.
Mm-hmm. So we both defended with the Drukhari lists. They picked me, so Drukhari on Marines, and you picked their sisters.
Yep.
Meaning Lennon fell through to Damien.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, so these weren't horrible matchups. Like it was our second base scenario. I think the second best scenario that we hoped for.
Pretty much. Yep. Because we didn't want you to play Lennon either. That we wanted to avoid that.
Especially if they had a table pick, yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't want to play sisters because mortals hurt you and stuff like that with their stratagems. So you kind of pick away at you. So going into Drukhari, and we've trained you to play the Drukhari. So
yes, it was. Yeah, it was unfortunate. I didn't know what the Chronos could do going into that matchup. Turns out they're Marine killers. That was their Marine killing list that they had there. So Lennon was there.
Damage.
And the +1 to wound, so they wound on 2s. Is the crazy part. So Lennon was their Drukhari killer, and their Drukhari player was their Marine killer. So, Brad, why don't you start with your... Actually, let's start with Damien.
Yeah, let's start with Damien. Yeah. You haven't said enough, Damien. So give us a quick rundown of your match. If there's a moment that sticks out to you, give us what happened.
The roll-off.
So, Lennon and I are sitting there talking, and he's like, yeah, this is not what I want to play against. He's like, it literally comes down to who gets to go first. And I was like, yeah, I do not disagree with you. It is what it is, I guess. And so, I lost the roll off inevitably. And I don't know. It wasn't, so turn one, and he had both of the mistake that I made in the whole matchup effectively came down to my deployment. We had it was Dawn of War deployment, and I had a big, huge building in my deployment zone that I did not use to put all of my las cannon chickens behind. Instead, I put the Bellistari kind of spread out because I was trying to get him to spread his stuff out, but he because I know that list doesn't have to have everything around each other, right? Like those dreadnoughts can kind of act independently because they can just kind of buff each other if they need it to, yada yada yada. And but he just was like, no, I'm not an idiot. So sorry that you're an idiot, basically. And then you deployed the way you deployed, and it screwed me, man. It really, really did. But at the same time, there was a chance after he went first. He went first. I think he blew up a couple las cannon, Bellistari, and I killed both of his Invictor war suits and a Redemptor, and then I might have killed a Contemptor too. I can't remember what round it was. I killed the Contemptor as well, but and so anyway, it came. I had a good punch back, harder than I thought I would do. And then I ended up having my priests come down, and if they had made this charge, I still had a unit of super buffed Rangers on my board, and they were standing with fireport telemetry and a force and stuff. So it'd been a really, really hard unit for him to shift. And if these priests, my Electro priests, had made their stinking 9-inch charge, then on 3d6, dropping the lowest, re-rolling it. If they had made that charge, I would have killed his second Redemptor, and then tagged and held, and he had no more CP left. I would have held the other Contemptor in combat, and what's he going to charge his suppressors and stuff into my 17 dudes that were on the table? I think he killed a couple of them in Overwatch, though. I think I only had 14, but still, it would have been a huge swing in my favor, right? Because I have these Electro Priests in his deployment zone now, wrapped around this Contemptor that they kill the next turn. And anything that does charge that I don't want to hit, for 1 CP, you make them not fight first, right? So I just get to smash that, whatever that would come in there. But They didn't, man. They failed to charge on a reroll, and
Unfortunate.
my first 3 games they failed their charge. It's 225 points. It did nothing in my first 3 games. So it was a good fight, man. John Lennon and I had a really good game, to be honest. And he is a better player than I am for sure. But it was fun. I really enjoyed the game. So
and hopefully you learned a lot, right? Like, so now you learn from the matchup, you learn from that type of list, that type of player, and you just improve from it.
For sure. I think if I played it again, I stack all of my Bellstari on the same side behind something, right? So then when he steps out with anything, all of them just step out, and then we can start the exchange. I don't give him any of the.
Yeah.
I don't try to mess with him in the deployment phase because it's too dangerous.
Especially with Ultramarines having a stratagem to redeploy. If you split your last guy on chickens and he redeploys to overcommit on kill one flank, not get return fire, then kill the second flank, it gets risky. Ultramarines are the only Marines that can redeploy like that, so it is a tricky game of deployment.
Yeah. So I think he ended up with 96 points, and I had 22 or something like that. He slaughtered me.
Yeah. I will point out that you were his toughest game that tournament.
How do you know?
Because looking at his points, he dropped the most points against you. John Lennon dropped 9 points in 5 rounds, and I think 4 of them were against you.
Like I said, I mean, if I had made that charge, I really do think. I mean, he probably still wins. Probably. I mean,
super close game.
But if it gets much closer, it gets much closer.
Sure.
All right, cool.
So
Jamie,
I'll go next.
Yeah.
So I played against Drukari. It was 9 Chronos, 5 Raiders, a squad of Trueborn, 3 squads of Incubi, I think, or maybe 2.
I think it was 3.
Yeah,
and then a witch squad.
So, pretty well all around the list, based around those 9 Chronos. As Damien said, it was a Dawn of War deployment. There was 2 ruins in each, 1 ruin in each corner, and then a forest in the middle of your deployment zone. My opponent deployed all 9 Chronos in the forest, and then he split his army about 70-30 into the 2 corners. He put 4 Raiders on one side, and then another Raider and a couple units on the other one. When he did this split, and with all the Chronos right in the middle, I overcommitted to the flank that he had committed to, because with only 4 Raiders, he has to get pretty good rolls to kill one of my Redemptors, and if I go first, I can really do some damage. He did not have the ability to redeploy. And then on the other flank, I had a squad of Wolfguard, a Redemptor, and some Bloodclaws holding that flank alone. I was able to win the roll-off, and the first thing I prioritized was that Trueborn. If I can kill that Trueborn, he's going to really struggle to kill my Redemptors. I dropped down my drop pod with the Long Fangs, with line of sight on the 4 Raiders. I can only see 2. But one of them was the one with the true one, which is the one I wanted to kill. And then they were also far away enough from the Chronos so that if he wants to kill my Wolfguard, he has to charge them. And the only thing he can charge me with are the Incubi. So by dropping down the Wolfguard, the Long Fangs away from the Chronos and forcing him to kill him with the Incubi meant they came down, popped the Raider, my Contemptor killed the Trueborn, and then in return he had to charge in with the Incubi to kill the Long Fangs, and then I was able to charge those Incubi. So that's the way I was pushing that flank. But to buy myself enough time on that flank, I had to push the other flank with the other Raider and the 9 Chronos. So I pushed up some Incursors as a bait for him to move into line of sight to shoot him, thinking that a Redemptor could do some damage in shooting to the Chronos. Turns out a Redemptor does nothing. Fortunately, he moved close enough to where I was able to do a couple of 6-7 inch charges with my Redemptor, my Wolfguard, into one of the Chrono squads, thinking with a unit of Wolfguard and Assault Doctrine, with a +1 to wound and a Redemptor, I would be able to kill 3 Chronos. Again, I was wrong. I killed 1.5 with those 2 units. Brutal. The good thing was, by charging the Redemptor and the Wolfguard into a ruin, all 9 Chronos spent 2 turns killing those Wolfguard, charging, falling back and shooting, and so on. That Redemptor tanked a lot of damage. So it meant that it bought me enough time to push up the other flank. He was caught fighting those 2 units for 1 turn too long, and that gave me enough points lead to win the game. and I think the final score was like 90 to like 60-ish or 50 something. I think it was
Crazy.
a great game. Those chronos are tough, and I asked my opponent if I made the correct decision engaging them with the Redemptor and the Wolf Guard, and he said absolutely, because it tied him up instead of letting him push my weak flank like I was doing on his weak flank and spinning the table and keeping the game super close. Because those Chronos were his Wowie stands, so he just wanted to keep them away from my army anyways. So by pushing in, which I thought was a turn too early, turns out bought me enough time to get a significant points lead between the two of us.
Awesome. Well, good.
Yeah.
So then I played the Sisters. I've never played the new Sisters yet, so I wasn't exactly sure what they did. So it was the Dawn of War deployment. I deployed everything as far away as possible from like the Melta, and I was like, okay, he's gonna move this far. Okay, I'm gonna be out of range. I put my stuff like all in the corners, right? He put his raiders, I keep saying that, his 3 rhinos in a forest in the middle of the board, and we were on a board pretty much no terrain at all. And so I was like, okay, I can go all the way in the corners away from where these Melta guys can come out, and I'm pretty good turn 1. Well, it turns out that he has a pre-game 6-inch movement with the Raiders.
With the Rhinos, yeah.
With the Rhinos, sorry, I keep saying that. So he has 6-inch pre-game move with the Rhinos because of the Dominion squads inside. So yeah, that's a tricky little sneaky thing. And then, he gets 3 inches out of that and a 6-inch movement and an advance with no penalty of shooting. So he had Meltas on my butt turn 1 and was able to barely kill 2 Raiders. He actually killed 1 and it blew up and killed the other one. So,
no.
Yeah, so that was super unfortunate. I emergency disembarked though to get extra movement, and it's actually I was contemplating doing this. I was like, do I do it? Do I not do it? I usually lose a lot of guys when I emergency disembark. So I did it with a squad. So it was actually it was an okay scenario because I had one squad with the relic where I could hold people in combat right there to charge his Melta guys. And then I wasn't going to kill them. I swung at them with a couple swings, and then I held them in combat with my guys on an objective, so then I can't get shot off the objective that's in the open. So really good play right there. And then the other guys, I emergency disembark, and I was like, okay, I can't. It's turn 1, right? I can't advance and charge. So to close the gap to him with them, and they're just in the middle of the open, I gotta just hit this 8-inch charge or something like that, 9-inch charge, and I hit it. So I hit this charge with 8 guys, and I go into combat with the Rhino. I just do some wounds on it, and then he has to roll off to get out of combat, and I beat him in the roll. So the Rhino gets stuck in combat with those guys. So both of his squads are stuck in combat. And he has his Zephyr squad, his 10-man, 12-man Zephyr squad, come up to kill them off the objective. And this is basically the turning point in the game. On turn 2, the squad comes at me, charges me, but then he has to charge other squads to get me off of other objectives. Otherwise, I pick up 15 on the primary. So he has to kill me off of 2 objectives. He has to do all these things. So I spend to interrupt the 10-man Zephyr with 6 witches that are left in combat there, and I wipe the whole squad. So I wipe the whole squad. I stay alive on the objective. I get 15 on the primary.
So he interrupted it. He activated in the wrong place. You think he didn't activate with the Zephyr first?
No, he had 2 squads of Zephyr in combat. So he had to pick which one, and then I interrupted with the other one, basically.
Oh,
so
that's a tough position to
so
be in.
Yeah, so either way I would have ended up on an objective, but it gets worse, right? So he didn't take his OBSEC guys out of the transport, and if he would have taken them out of the transport, put them on the objective and charged me with them, he would have killed enough models to then have OBSEC and beyond that and not give me 15. Because then what happened was I interrupt, I kill all the Zephyr, and then he loses the roll again, and I stay in combat again, and he can't shoot me off the objective. So now he has to charge them with Repentia the next turn. So
those witches are so
having
annoying.
that one squad of witches on that objective slowed him down basically for 2 turns from moving across the board. So it was it was just a huge thing for him to have to make these decisions and stuff like that. But I saw him that happened, and I just kind of adapted to it, and I was like, all right, I don't really need to push him anymore. I just got 15 on the primary. He just got 5 on the primary. So then it's like, that's a big point swing. And I'm like, okay, I could just kite this game now. And I just kept everything in the Raiders on the other side of the board. And then I just kept him off of objectives, and I just stayed on my objectives. And we just kind of traded points, and I ended up winning by 5 points. So like, it was a super close game. And that turn kind of forged the narrative of the game and how I needed to shift my play to not make a mistake and hand it back to him.
Yeah, and also forced the tournament, man, because you winning that game gave us a shot. We were 2-0 after that round, and in the runnings for the tournament. If you had lost that game, we wouldn't have had a chance. You won
it. I mean, you had to win your game. You had to beat 9 Chronos. Like, Damien had to take on Lennon, dude. Like, it all had to happen, right? All the puzzle pieces.
Round. It was a tough round.
Puzzle pieces had to fall into place.
Absolutely.
Tough round.
So okay, so we get through that round. Now we go into round 3, and because Damien scored so low, we're gonna call this a submarine round. Okay, so that's basically what happens in a tournament if you don't score a bunch of points to be the king of the hill and stay on the top of the rankings and keep playing the top team and just knocking people off, right? So because we didn't score high enough on that, we just kind of get knocked down to like the middle or bottom of the pack of undefeated people. So now we go up against a team that is Death Watch, a monster mash list with like 5 or 6 monsters, like the Lord Change, Magnus,
the Holy Trinity, yeah,
all of them, and then Drukari. And so we're like, okay, what are they gonna do? We think that they're gonna put down the monsters to defend. So we're like, all right, we want to put Jamie as our defender because he doesn't really want to play into the monsters.
I do not.
And ideally, he doesn't have to play into the Drukari because, it's always a hard match for him. So, like, putting him into the Death Watch is always good. So they put down the Drukari to defend, and then Jamie picks the Death Watch. The Drukari picked me, so it was a Drukari matchup. And then the Monster Mash, he was so excited. He's like, I'll take the Admech. And, like, he was like, he told his Drukari player, like, he was going to take the Admech. And he clearly has no idea what Admech does. So, Damien, what does Admech do to a monster mash list right now?
Well, unfortunately for my opponent, I don't. It was worse than I thought it was. Honestly, when I was doing, I was like, wait, I have more guns. Like I
am not done.
I'm not done. Like I have, so I play with stuff a little bit differently. Like I have planes in my list, which I don't think a lot of AdMech players do right now currently. But I've always been a big fan of the bombers, and I feel like they made them better. Well, I feel like they did make them better because now if you roll over a monster or a vehicle, you get 6 dice, whereas before you just got what did you get before? I think you got 3.
I think it was D3.
Was 3?
Was it?
I think
flat 3?
It might have been D. Yeah, it might have been D3. It might have been something like that. Either way, worse than it. Worse than it is now. And so now you get 6. And so I ended up picking up. Magnus got picked up by my Vanguard with their enriched rounds. Because it's 60 shots, right? Dude, Magnus has got to take, and with Solar Flare, you just put them up wherever you want. They got 27-inch range with Galvanic buff on them, plus Lucius buff. And
if you don't know what that does, it auto wounds on 4s to hit.
To hit.
And that's everything but vehicles. So like going against monsters like that, 4s to hit, auto wounds monsters. Okay.
Yep.
You dead.
That is what that does. And so it freaking it just devoured his freaking his dude. And then after that it devoured Magnus. So Magnus is like, okay, automatically takes 30 freaking -1 saves. So he's taking 34 ups. I mean, that's just the math on itself just kind of kills him. Plus, it's more than that though, because then you end up re-rolling some of the ones, and you end up, and then some of those hits that aren't fours, because you're hitting them on twos. Anyway, so the Magnus died, and then Mortarion died. So I bombed him twice, so it's 12 dice, and I kind of spiked a little bit on the kind of. It's not kind of. On my bombs when I rolled over him, it's on 4-ups that the bombs do mortal wounds. I did out of the 6 dice on the first bomber, I did 5 mortal wounds. Plane comes over, another 5 mortal wounds. And I'm like, ooh, that's a little better than normal. And he's like sitting there, he's like, oh my gosh. And he fails. I think he only passed 2 of his 5-ups out of the 10 that he had to take. So right now, Mortarion's down 8 wounds. He's just got 10 wounds left. My las cannons pick him up. And then I had my Rangers. They get a scout move, and so I had them just past my line. And I was like, oh crap! So if I get to go first, they're gonna Ranger up 3 inches and then move 6 inches, and that puts me in rapid fire range with a whole 20-man squad into his Keeper of Secrets. And if I don't go first, they just back up just a little bit, and I shouldn't be able to be charged. And sure enough, I got to go first. So then they move up 3 inches, move up 6 inches, 80 shots, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, take 30 something saves, and then at -2. And that didn't quite kill him. And then my planes finished off the Keeper of Secrets. So I managed to. Yeah, my planes killed.
That's so brutal.
And then
that was too much game.
And then I charged. I had my infiltrators in the middle of the board, and my dogs moved up, and the dogs and infiltrators moved up and charged into some of his Nurglings that were on objective and killed most of them. I think there was 1 left, so they got to just stay in combat with him. Not that it matters against them. So yeah, I killed like the Keeper of Secrets, the freaking Magnus and Mortarion on turn 1. Turn 2, my priests dropped down. Of course, they failed the charge. Why would they not? And so he didn't quite get tabled on turn 2, but he conceded at the top of his turn on turn 3. So that was the game.
It's insane, man. That's insane. Like killing 3 of those guys on turn 1. Like I don't think I could kill one of those in a full game with my army right now.
Stuff. So it is worth noting that the mission that we played was Sweep and Clear, which is my favorite mission in the book. It's the one where you deploy in the quadrants. The mission-specific objective is direct assault, so that's hold the middle for 3 points or hold your opponents. If you hold both, it's 5 points. It stacks great with Oath of Moment and the new Domination, the Stranglehold mission. So I played against Deathwatch. He had 3 Redemptors, 2 squads of Intercessors with 5 Outriders. He had a squad of 5 Intercessors with 5 Hellblasters, a bunch of characters, the 5-up Invons, Relic Storm Shield, an Apothecary, and so on. He won the roll-off to go first. I had deployed my 2 Redemptors in the middle of the board, hopefully to make him come a little closer. With his infantry, he deployed the infantry really far back. And then I deployed 10 Wolf Guard on one of my quadrant flanks, and then 5 Wolf Guard and my Chapter Master on the other one. I normally deploy my Chapter Master right in the middle of my army, but at this time, knowing that because he also took the same secondaries as I did, we were both fighting for the middle, but he had to push one of the side objectives, and I had my Chapter Master, Wolf Guard, ready to push either or of those objectives. He ended up overextending and pushing both, which let me charge into both sides with my Chapter Master, my Wolf Guard, and then the other 2 Wolf Guard units into the other. Actually, 1 Wolf Guard went for the other Outriders, and one of the other Wolf Guards went into the middle to help the Redemptor that was alive. This let me really push out of my deployment zone turn 1. I was able to hold all the objectives. He left me a gap behind his deployment zone for my drop pod. They came down, shot everything into the Hellblasters because I didn't want them having high AP 2 damage shots. Was able to kill them. The multi-melters picked up one of the Redemptors through the 5-up Invon. And just by being on every single objective and holding the middle and having all my long fangs in his backfield, he just had a war on all fronts, and he didn't have the resources to win them all. He pushed back on a couple of them really well. He sent some Outriders backwards to kill my Longfangs. Three Eliminators came in and shot at my Chapter Master, just picked them up. It was 3 hits, 3 wounds, a mortal, and I failed 2 saves with the CP reroll. My Chapter Master got shot. That was unfortunate. But again, it's my favorite mission. I know how to play it. Like, my list plays it really well. You have to come into the middle to win that mission, and that's exactly where my list wants to be. But it was a great round, and my librarian survived this Chapter Master charging in, and then did a couple wounds, and then in my turn just smited him to death. Didn't even have to fight him a second time, so that was pretty cool. But Mr. Brad played the mirror matchup, didn't you?
I did. I played the mirror matchup, and it's funny because I actually have not played. I keep getting games that I've like never played. So like I never played against Knights with Drukhari. I never played against Sisters in the new edition or with Drukhari. I've never played Drukhari versus Drukhari. So it's every round is like a good learning game for me. So he won the role to go first. There's actually some terrain on here where I was able to pretty much hide my entire army behind it, but I also put some stuff kind of aggressive to just kind of get shot at, because it's like, what's he going to do? Shoot at me with a couple Dark Lances? It's really not that big of a deal. If he gets lucky, he kills a Raider. Most likely it's not going to happen. I know how Dark Lances shoot. They never do anything, so I'm not afraid of them. So, yeah, just kind of deploy. I put Mandrakes, and I kind of baited him to go towards the Mandrakes on one side of the board, because if he didn't go over there, I basically would have been able to sit on an objective all game for free. So he pushes a lot of his army towards the Mandrakes, and he just moves all of his Raiders up. So the only thing in his quadrant is 10 Cabalite Warriors sitting on his objective in the wide open. Everything else is fully forward on the, like, he's got a Venom on the middle objective, he's got a Raider and a Venom on another, and he's got like 2 Raiders on another objective. So he just like flies up to these objectives, and so nothing happens turn 1. That's a turn 1. And my lesson here is I think if you're a Drukhari player out there and you play a mirror matchup, it's actually to your advantage to go second like 99% of the time. There's very, very few lists that you're going to want to actually go first against, and here's why. So what happens is, if you're a Drukhari player and they're aggressive like that, they're basically giving you free movement across the whole board, because I moved 14 inches up on everything, and on one thing I moved 22 inches, and I'm able to advance and charge because I was playing Cabal Blackheart on this in this tournament. So I'm able to basically countercharge every single one of his vehicles, and I tagged every Raider and every Venom on the table with my stuff. And I didn't even have to do with all of my stuff. I was able to keep 2 of my 5 Raiders on the board back. So he only had one thing on the middle objective. So I charged a Raider on the middle objective, took that from him, and then I threw like a small, like a biker squad, a 3-man biker squad on it. So then I had more units on there for me to be able to take the objective. And I did the same exact thing on one of the other objectives. I put a Raider on it and 3 bikers, so I took that from him. And then I put 2 Raiders against 2 Raiders on the other one to cancel that one from him. So I tag all of his Raiders. And the reason for that is that he either has to sit there and shoot Dark Lances into combat with me, or he just has to back out and go do stuff. But like, he can't advance. He's not going to be able to charge, so I slow his movement down everywhere. And it forces him to have to take stuff out of his Raiders, or I'm just going to sit there on the objectives and nothing's going to happen. Which, it's up to you what you do in that situation. And we can do some other info on that. But he decides to get out. He gets out with Draz, he gets out with Incubi, he gets out with Witches, he gets out with his Grotesques, he gets out with Racks, he gets out with everything in his everything gets out of transports. There's not a single thing in a transport. Okay? So everything comes out, and he charges my transports. So he kills 2 of my transports. So he kills my transport in the middle, he kills one on another objective, I emergency disembark, and I move 6 inches towards his Cabalites all the way in his backfield with my Witches. So he gives me 6 inches of free movement there. He gives me, guys in the middle of the board, And what happens is I just lose a couple raiders, but then the next turn, because everything's out from him, I charge with my succubuses, I charge with Draz, I charge with all my witches. My witches go all the way into his backline, into his Cabalites, and I kill his Cabalites, I kill his Venoms, I kill his, everything that came out. And then I charge back into his raiders with all of my raiders. So then his raiders are out of play for another turn, and they can't do anything. So like we went into like turn 4, and like every raider is still alive because he just keeps backing out, and I just keep charging him. So it was just like this back and forth game like that, and then at the end of it, because he took so much stuff out in that one turn, I was able to just like kill everything and then just run around the board basically free.
It is worth pointing out that at a team event, when you have teammates and there's 3 games being played at the same time, not just one, this Drukhari player was on the back foot because he had to win his game, right? Like the AdMech monster matchup wasn't going to go well. They needed to win the Drukhari game, and they needed to win the Marine game.
Yep.
So your opponent was forced to be extremely aggressive to try and make plays happen, whereas you were on the defensive trying to keep control of the game, right? So that kind of influences the play, because in individual tournaments you might not have to do that kind of stuff. But at a team event, you're forced into some play styles depending on how the pairings went.
Yeah, and both of his teammates knew the whole team knew how the monster game was going, because he looked over to his teammates and he goes, he just killed 3 monsters on his turn 1. And both like and it's like ingrained in my mind, and so then I just go, welcome to AdMech. And we're just like, yeah, like we knew, we're like, why'd he pick into that? Like when he picked into that, we're just like, clearly he has no idea what's about to happen. They would have been way better trying to have the Drukhari player play against the AdMech player, even though it'll probably end up the same way. And then me playing to the monsters, they probably win that game or come close to it, right? Like, they could have at least.
It's hard. It's hard to kill those things.
Yeah,
it's not for sure. But that was round 3, day 1, and that ended the day 1. We were 3-0. We're really happy with our performance. We're all pretty psyched going to day 2 undefeated on the top table. And day 2, round 4, we went against
Matt Root's team.
That's right.
So Matt Root was playing Drukhari with 6 Chronos. He was, and then his teammate was playing Custodes with 3. The Talaman Dreadnoughts.
Talaman Dreadnoughts, yeah.
I'm saying that right. And
then Nick was playing Dark Angels.
Dark Angels. Yep.
So with a bunch of Terminators and attack bikes.
We were convinced, and we thought that Matt Root was going to be defending, because we had heard he had been defending every single round. So we're like, all right, what's our scenario if that happens? What matches do we want? We want Jamie into the Custodes. We want Damien into the Dark Angels, and we want me to take the Drukhari mirror matchup. Because that's a hard game for me, but it should have came very, very close, if not guaranteeing 2 wins. But lo and behold, they actually defend with the Custodes, and the Custodes player, without even hesitation, picks into me, Drukhari.
Yeah, because we defended with me again.
Yep.
And he was like, yeah, I don't want to play against AdMech, so he picked you. I picked Dark Angels. Because I played Nick before, we've had great games, and then Drukhari falls through to AdMech.
Yep.
So I'll start with this round. I played against Nick. It was again a Dawn of War mission. I took the it was, what mission was it? Was it Surround and Destroy?
It was Surround and Destroy. Yep.
Yeah, Surround and Destroy. So there's a hold 1, hold 2. There's 2 objectives in the middle, 2 in each deployment zone. On our tables, the objectives in the middle were in the open. So I took Stronghold because I knew I could shoot. He didn't have throwaway units, so he had a 10-man Terminator, 5-man Terminator. He combat squads of 10-man. He had a squad of 5 bikes, 2 squads of 3 multi-melter bikes, a couple Talon Masters, and a couple command squads. So he doesn't really have throwaway units. So he has to leave work units on those middle objectives. As soon as I realized that, I took Stranglehold because I knew I was going to be able to shoot whatever he put on those objectives. He went first. He sent 3 attack bikes to go kill my Redemptor. He rolled really low on the multi-melter wounds. He got like 3 through or 4. I think it was 3 or 4. And he failed to kill my Redemptor, and that was his turn 1. My turn 1, I dropped my pod right into the middle because he didn't screen out the middle. It meant that my drop pod could score me Oath of Moment for the rest of the game. My Long Fangs killed 3 of his attack bikes. My Volkite with a +1 of Wound Litany killed the 3 attack bikes that pushed up a flank. And I just moved everything into the middle, cast cover from my Librarian and a -1 to be hit. And I had really defensive bubble right in the middle with all of my units within charge range of the 2 middle objectives. And at that point, I had secured those objectives, meaning he could never push up to deny me Stranglehold and for him to push for 15 primary. He had taken Stubborn Defiance on the objective really far away from the core of my army. And at that point, we just played a super slow game. We traded pieces here and there. We were both I was getting 15 on primary. He was getting 10 every turn. He was going to max out his Stubborn Defiance because I didn't want to risk pushing to his objective. If I push, fail a couple charges, overextend, those Titan Masters are really good at picking up my units when they ignore cover. So I just decided to stay in the middle of the board. I was scoring Direct Assault. I was scoring Oath of Moment, Stranglehold, and Banners. And I just decided to stay where I was. I never really charged into his lines. I sent a Dreadnought in just to buy me some time, make sure he didn't push up too much into me. He never left his deployment zone. He scored 80 points. I scored 90 points. I was able to win the round. But again, we didn't try to deny each other points. And that's how I secured that round.
Yeah, and then it goes on
Mm-hmm.
to me. I played the Custodes, and this was on a table I played before where there's like no terrain. There was a couple big buildings in the middle, and I was like, okay, I'm going to play around these. The Dreadnoughts aren't going to be able to shoot me. That was kind of my plan. Well, Brad didn't know something. Brad didn't know that at this tournament, you could touch the terrain and shoot through it. I'm used to you have to be in the terrain and be in the ruins and stuff like that and not just touch like this flat outside of a building. So his Dreadnoughts just basically go up, touch the outside of the building, and are able to freely shoot me. Because there's literally no terrain on this board. Literally no terrain. So there's really only a couple things to point out that happened here, and it's a pretty simple game. My Raider turn 1, I advanced and tried to charge it. I needed an 8-inch charge onto three guys. And I failed the charge. I re-rolled it. I failed it again. If I made that charge, I basically would have held that objective probably for most of the game. So it was really bad that I failed that charge. And then on turn 2, I charged witches into them on that same objective. And on the other objective, I charged 10 witches and a succubus into 3 shield guys. And I knew he was going to interrupt somewhere and something was going to die, but then he played a stratagem with the swooping dive for 3 CP with his shield captain on a bike guy, and he was able to kill a couple witches off of that, so it took the amount I was able to hit away, and it was enough to matter for sure, because it was like an unfortunate sequence of events to where I swing, and then he ends up, paying 1 CP to interrupt again, and he kills my succubus, which I just kind of wasn't expecting everything to happen how it happened. So like he kills my succubus. I only have witches to swing with. My witches only kill like 1.5 shield guys. So if I had the couple other witches, I would have killed 2 of them. So then he only would have had 3 models on there for OBSEC that were left instead of 4. And then those witches in that combat fail morale and just enough die to have 1 model less than him.
Unfortunate.
To not cancel that objective from him, right? So I fail that, and then on the other side of the board, the exact same thing happens. He makes all his saves. I whiff everything. None of the guys die. He has 3 models on there. I have 10 witches. Guess how many died from him attacking me in combat and morale failing?
7, 8.
Yeah, 8. So I have 2 left, and he has 3. So I could have fully denied him primary there, and if that would have happened, it would have just been a really, really big swing in the game, and the momentum would have been really, really good in my favor. But yeah, I was just failing everything exactly. Like morale failed, a guy failed. Draz fails to save by 1 damage. Succubus fails to save by 1 damage. Like everything's just failing by exactly 1 all game. So it's just like, all right, this game wasn't meant to happen. It is what it is. I played it as good as I can. I scored as many points as I can. I think I got like 57 points or something. So, if I go into a matchup like that again and I have some terrain, I think I could do better, but my risks didn't pay off. But I had to do them because he was just going to freely shoot at me all game. So yeah, I took the loss there. It was an unfortunate loss, but Jamie took a win. I took a loss, and then Damien, what happened to you?
So I ended up playing against Mr. Matt Root, and that matchup, I got to go first. So I really just put a ton of my concentration into. I put a ton of my concentration into my turn 1 and turn 2. And turn 1, I got to push up across the board. And I popped 3 Raiders. I killed... What else did I kill? 3 Raiders. I killed his Hellions. I killed 2 units of Incubi. And I sniped out Drazar with my dogs. So then he had the 6 Chronos in the middle of the table, and he split them going one towards one side, one towards the other side. So that just kind of doing that, I was able to pick up on turn 2. I was able to pick up one of his Chronos squads, and then the other Chronos squad went into my Vanguard. My Vanguard basically stayed alive the whole game, the entire game. He did not kill them with the buffs that they had. And I timed out on turn 3 is what happened. Timed out. No, nothing left. So I was able to bring down my priest and secure the back right corner in his deployment zone with my priest. And I timed out on turn 3, and so I just got to sit there and watch him play 2 turns. I'm like, well, I hope I did enough. Good gracious. But luckily I did enough on the first couple turns, and so even though I wasn't able to move around any models, I was just able to make armor saves. He ended up getting my back lines with the Succubus that can bounce around pretty easily, and she picked up all of his assassinates. Which again, I was starting to get pretty nervous. I'm like, oh crap! Brad comes over there and he's like, and I didn't keep track of any of the scores either because I just wasn't. I don't know why I didn't do that. I should have done that a little better. That's a mistake on my part. And so Brad comes over and he's just like, I see him kind of looking at me and I'm like, well, I don't know, man. I'm timed out, dude. I'm just kind of hanging out here and see what happens. And luckily I just had done enough on the first 2 turns where it had just crippled his army. And he wasn't able to quite come back from it. So
we were all so nervous because we didn't know what the score was. We didn't know how many points were in. We were just all biting our nails. We see Damien has 4 seconds left and he can't do anything. And just Matt Rude is just doing his thing, scoring points, pushing for whatever he can. And he's we just walked away from the table. It's we just can't be here. It's too stressful. We came back and Damien won the game in the round. And we were 4-0.
You not adding your scores was the most stressful thing of my entire existence at that moment. I'm like, oh my god, nothing's filled out. I see his characters are dead. He has 0 marks for assassination. What is happening? What are these scores? And we can't bother them in the middle of the game. And then the game's over, and I take Damien's phone, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna walk through this game with your teammate because you're just stressing me out right now. We're gonna make sure this score is correct. And we're going to make sure there's no crazy stuff happening because half the scores are right, half of them are different. There's a ref there watching everything to make sure nothing's, getting done incorrect. And it ended up all working out fine, but me not knowing how far ahead he was, because if we knew how far ahead he was when he clocked out, we're able to then look at the board and go, okay, he's going to get this many points, his opponent can get this many, we know he has the game. But without knowing the score, I'm just going to walk away and go hang out with Thomas and them because I'm just going to have a freaking
aneurysm. Stressful. But he did it. He came through. He
Yeah.
got him.
Nice.
Yeah.
He smashed it with
But
that.
that's just, unfortunately, that is, my brain's like a bag of cats, right? It's not. Nobody knows what's going on. I don't know what's happening.
That's such a good explanation of you trying to make decisions when you have no time left on your clock. A bag of cats. That is, that if I looked at you while you're trying to make those decisions, I could picture that going on in your head.
Absolutely. There's that. What's that movie, Inside Out, where they like go into the
yes,
brains?
it's like that.
And at the very end, they show what's in the side of a cat's brain, and like the cat, there's like 9 cats inside of his head, and they're just like walking around touching the controls.
That's you.
That is me.
So we pull out that win. We go into the finals, the top table, and this is actually against a bunch of friends of ours. This is Seth, who plays orcs, Shelby, who plays Necrons. She plays Harlequins occasionally, but she's playing Necrons at this tournament, and then Connor, who's playing Ultramarines Successors. So Jamie,
I don't know if we can say plays. I don't know if we can say Seth was playing orcs that tournament. He was playing a orc. He was playing the custom stomper. That was half his list. That's the only thing he cared about. He was playing one model. The rest was there to support it. Ridiculously super cool looking model. He did a great painting job on it. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen one, but that was the first time I saw one. It is nuts. He showed me, he had these little cards for all the guns because each gun has a random profile. It was ridiculous. Super fun to see.
So how did we want the pairings to go on this last matchup?
Why do I want to play against the orcs? I didn't stand a chance. I can't kill in shooting. I can't kill in combat because it's TA 40 wounds. I do say I get my 35 attacks and I can kill anything in combat, but if you have more wounds than I have attacks, like, we have a problem here. I can kill a knight in combat, but I can't kill a stomper. It's got more wounds than I have attacks, which is problematic. So I could not play against the stomper. It just shoots me before I can reach it. So we put me as defender again because I just couldn't take it, and they defended with Seth, right?
Yeah.
They defended with the stomper. They picked. So Seth before the game said he didn't want to play against last cannon chickens just because if Damien can hide his chickens behind a wall and shoot through a window, because the stomper has 40 wounds, it can never get obscuring, so you can always shoot it and he can't shoot you back. He just didn't want to risk playing against 12 last cannons a turn. So he picked Brad. I picked the Ultramarine Successors with Connor. And Damien ended up playing against Shelby and her Necrons.
I did.
So Damien, start us off on this one.
So, yeah, Shelby in my game. It was a good game, man. It was the lowest scoring win of the tournament for Damien. And we just kind of were just having a good time. Shelby, so here's what I'll say. I'm just going to be perfectly candid about it because I think we should be perfectly candid. So Shelby was like, there's no way I win this matchup. And I'm like, there's no way you win this matchup. Just by list design, okay? Purely by list design. She had forgotten to even put Veil of Time or Veil of Darkness or whatever. Veil of whatever.
Whatever,
the
that's teleport. Yeah.
Yeah, just like my teleport. She hadn't even put the relic on her characters. She didn't have she had like 20 Necron or 40 Necron warriors. No, she had 50 Necron warriors because one was inside of a transport. She had some various little characters, and she had a ton of scarabs. So, if I take thin them down or whatever the thin the ranks. Yeah, and so if I just kill the scarabs alone, plus like one of the Necron squads, I mean, you basically max that. And I picked the secondary that the opponent picks one. It's called like Archetype of something or other. And basically they pick one that's not in their deployment zone and objective, and then if you hold it every turn, you get 2 points, and at the end of the game, if you're holding it, you get 5 points in addition. So, it's just kind of we just got to play a pretty chill game, and I ended up 66 to something. I don't remember what she had.
Yeah.
But it was a very fun, laid back game. Her and I were laughing the whole time, while both of my comrades here, Brad's over here doing like the strategic genius stuff against this orc stomper list that he's supposed to lose. And,
Why don't you tell us about that, Brad?
well, let me just give my perspective. Hold on, let me finish now. Because I'm sitting there and I'm literally, Shelby and I are like laughing the entire game. I've never seen a less stressful top table game of 40K in my whole life. Like, Shelby's like, yeah, definitely pick. When we're picking secondary, she's like, oh, you take Thin the Ranks for sure. Like, she didn't even make me have to even think about my third one, because she's just like, take Thin the Ranks. You get it easy. You just pick up my scarabs and like one warrior squad and it's done. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. So it was the most polite, most wonderful, the least I mean, I felt like I was playing a first round game. That's how I felt, like, because it was just super laid back. It was super, super fun. She's a gem. If you guys ever get a chance to play against her, she's an absolute gem. But yeah, I look over it and I keep looking over at Brad's game and he's using his brain, he's really thinking. I look over at JB's game, he's like, he's doing all these maneuvers, all these sweet moves and stuff on the table. And I'm like, yeah, I guess these guys go here. I guess these guys go here. Oh, nice.
Well, because like Jamie knows he has to win, because like I'm supposed to lose that matchup. And I looked over at Jamie and I go, it was like after turn 1, I was like, hey, I'm losing this, just so you know. So like the pressure's on
over to me and you just were just shaking your head. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, like
it's not good.
It was not good. I messed up my deployment like greatly.
You just come over to me like, turns out Dark Lances don't reach across the board.
Yeah, that's what I told you. So it was corner to corner ruins, and I was like, yeah, it's 42 inches from corner to corner where I have to reach these, not 36. So I was like, okay, I can't just sit here in a corner and shoot at that thing and then engage him on turn 3, 4, and 5. So I split my deployment a little bit, and I made a little mistake. One of my raiders could be seen a little bit, and then dude, I have no idea why I did it. I had 6 of my bikes behind a ruin that he could see, and I was just like, what am I doing? So like, I threw him 6 bikes and a raider for literally no reason. He had no business killing anything turn 1. He kills that stuff turn 1, and I was like, okay, how am I physically going to get engaged? How am I going to, I don't have as much movement or as much tankiness now to go in the middle of the board. I was like, how do I do this? What am I supposed to do? And I was accepting the fact at that point that I lost this game. But Brad never gives up. And Brad always says I can play without half of my list on turn 1 and still pull a win out, because that's just what always happens to me in games. So I get strategic as I possibly can. And I pick both of my mandrakes up into deep strike. And just to preface it, every single game I start a transport with 5 witches and 5 racks off the board, and I start another squad of 5 racks off the board. So I always have some deep strike stuff that can come in. So I do my advance and charge across the table, right? He moves up a little bit. He's got a helicopter thing on each objective. And I'm like, okay, I need to get at least 2 points on engage. So I throw a transport up 22 inches, and I need like a 5-6 inch charge or something from where he was. And I'm basically going all the way into his backlines with this raider. So I make this charge all the way into the backlines with his raider. And I shoot a Dark Lance at each helicopter. And I kill. I just literally just need a wound to go through. I kill a helicopter, and then I charge his other helicopter with a raider, because I wanted to be on the objective with a raider, and then guys fall out so I could hold it for primary. So I just move up, I charge one of his helicopters, I kill one off. So he is on no objectives at this point except for his back one. So he's going to get 5 on the primary. Cool. I brought him from 15 to 5 on the primary, and I've got a raider that charged some guys in his back line. So then it's like, okay, he backs out of combat with stuff. He shoots some raiders. He kills 2 raiders. My guys fall out. I hold the objective. He charges this 10-man with all of his guys and his bike dude and kills them. But now I'm like, okay, like his guys are closer now, right? He's got a 30-man squad 5 inches away from my 10-man witch squad, all right? 10-man witches, go kill 30 boys. So I'm like, all right, go, gadget. And then on the other side of the board, he drops in like commandos, and I'm like, okay, I've got my 10-man with relic over there to hold them in combat. So I double charge his commandos over there, and I kill one squad, and I hold the other one in combat. So now I'm on an objective over there holding a squad in combat. Unfortunately, I couldn't get enough movement because of how he had them spaced out to like put enough obsec on there to take that objective away from him. If I tried a little bit differently, I could have, but I didn't roll a big enough charge. I had all these things went wrong, so I didn't take that objective away from him, but I held him in combat, which means he can't shoot at that. So then, and then the other 10 man goes into the 30 boys, and I kill 27 of them.
Green tide, baby.
Tides.
Green
But
tide.
luckily, I had the entire board blocked, so he could only green tide into his own deployment zone.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so he couldn't fit anything anywhere else, and I was just like, well, that's a happy accident because I wasn't expecting this to happen. I had mandrakes come back down, filling holes. I had a raider come down on an objective. I had other raiders spread out behind ruins with 10 guys. And the way the ruins were, I basically could just have raiders sitting behind ruins with guys in it, waiting for him to come into the middle objectives, and then I could counterpunch him. And so then that next turn, his big shooting thingamabob, big stompa dude, shoots at 2 of my raiders and doesn't kill either one, puts both of them down to 3 wounds. So because his psychic power failed. So his psychic power failed for all of his rerolls.
Right.
So psychic power fails. I'm pretty sure he re-rolled it and it failed as well. So it fails. He doesn't have his rerolls. My raiders live. And then I'm just like, okay, Raiders live. He now has to make a choice. He has to run up with his 30 boys. He's got to get me off of this objectives. Comes up with 30 boys. 10 witches go in, kill those 30 boys. Comes up with another 30 boys. My succubus and Draz come in then on this third wave, and he charges them. He splits his attacks and stuff like that, and they both live with 1 wound. I made 16 out of 18 4-up saves or something like that on my succubus.
Some good rolling.
And I had 1 wound left, and then same thing with Draz, 1 wound left. I swing back and I kill all 30 of them. So the succubus with the whirling death and triptych whip, I think is amazing. I had 22 attacks or something on them, and it's just deleted. See ya. And then I was able to just charge his characters after that, and he just had the stompa left. So my witches were able to sit in these raiders and just wait for him to move up because he had the new domination, so he had to go get on those middle objectives. So I just waited behind a ruin, and when he came up for those objectives, I counterpunched him, and he's trading 30 boys for 10 witches every single turn. That's not a good trade for him.
It's not a trade for anybody.
No. So I just kind of played out for that, and then he shoots at a bunch of my stuff at the end of the game, kills a bunch of my units that are out there, but then I jump on primary because all he's got is 1 model, and I got 15 points primary in a game. I ended up pulling the win out. It was 80 something to 40 something, and I was amazed. It was crazy. Sure. It was crazy. It was insane. So yeah, we pulled it out. We pulled out the win. I know I
was able to win against Connor and his Ultramarines. That was a super interesting game because it was the retrieval mission. So 1 objective in each deployment zone and then 2 in the middle. I took Engage, Oath of Moment, and I don't remember what my third one. Oh, the mission specific one. If you hold one of the middle objectives, 2 points. If you hold both, 4 points. And if you hold your opponents, another 4. So he went first. He didn't redeploy because I deployed super defensively, so I didn't give him anything to shoot. He pushed up a little bit. I then brought my drop pod down, and using the Contemptor in the drop pod, I focused down his 10-man intercessor just because those have a lot of shots that I don't want to deal with late game. They really, really hurt with the consistency and volume of fire. I used the multi-melters on the drop pod to kill one of his Volkite dreadnoughts. I had my cover psychic power on my drop pod and devastators, so they were pretty tanky against his AP1. He had Storm of Fire, so 6 is to wound to AP2, which made it a little trickier. But he shot everything he had into the devastators. Only the 2 melters, 1 melter from each squad survived. That was super handy because I didn't use the cherubs in the first round. So those melters surviving meant I got to get 4 shots out of each of the melters, which was pretty awesome. I moved all the Wolfguard behind the ruin that he couldn't move up to touch. I pre-measured where his Redemptors could touch the wall from. He couldn't touch the ruin that I was hiding behind, so they were safe for a turn. And in turn 2, I popped the Redemptor. I had my
You might be a genius.
the what, sorry?
I said you might be a genius.
Nah, I just played this list a lot. I knew that he had taken Oath of Moment, so I knew that he had to have a unit within 6 inches of the middle. So what I did was put a Wolf Guard within 6 inches of the middle, and as soon as he moved in to get Oath of Moment, I was able to spend a CP to Heroic 6 inches, kill the unit that he used to get Oath of Moment, and get an extra 9 inches of move towards his army. The following turn I was able to jump because of that extra move. I was able to use 12 inches to jump over his Dreadnoughts, charge his characters that were buffing the Dreadnoughts. I killed the Librarian, I killed the Tech Marine, and I tagged the Captain. And it meant that he no longer had 5-up invulns. It meant that the next wave, my AP3 isn't hitting 5-up invulns. He's taking 6-up saves, which means I can kill Redemptors in combat now instead of bouncing off them. By focusing the characters first, I lost a few of the Wolf Guard to be able to kill those characters, but it meant that afterwards I was able to kill Redemptors without having to worry about invulns. I didn't want him to have invulns in case he spiked, because if he spikes, I'm in trouble. But overall, it was a great game, and that won us the tournament. We won all 3 games in the final round, and we pulled it off.
We sure did.
Our first win as a team.
I'll tell you what, too. I think, overall, and this is pretty much the last thing I have to say about this is I think that our strategy, and, anybody can really adopt this kind of strategy. Our strategy going into it, our thought process, because we thought we talked a lot about this, didn't we, guys? Like about how we were going to approach each match with pairings, and this is what I think all of us have come to agree, that team tournaments are basically our favorite way to play the game now. 100%. Really. I mean, I played ATC before and stuff, but I wasn't as invested in the team. I played with Chris Blackham and stuff at ATC, and we did really well. We actually did really well, but this was the first time where it's been our kind of our brand, our company going into it. So I felt more invested, to be honest. And so I think when we went into this, we were okay, we're gonna throw a grenade down and secure 2 wins. And so when we go to Vegas, that is a sound strategy for people to be able to do. You throw 2 people down and you secure 3 wins with your thing, and that, I'm not trying to give away secret tech. There are people that already do this, so it's not this is not an unknown thing. But I do think that is a very sound strategy to be able to throw away a list, but it's not even necessarily throwing away it because you still have the players that get to play the game, right? But putting them into difficult lists, like Brad pulling out the win against the Sisters and Brad pulling out the win against the Orc player, those were things that he should not have won. He should not have won them.
Yeah.
But he freaking did. And so that's what...
Here we were feeling all bad because we thought we were throwing Brad under the bus. It's I'm sorry, bro, you got to jump on the grenade, just suck it up, lose the game, on to the next one. And he just comes back, he's yeah, I won it.
Well, the interesting thing about Brad is this is what makes players so when you're forming your lists and your team, you have to take people's personalities and their strengths into this kind of thing, because you have to have, in my opinion, you have to have at least one person that's going to be you're jumping on a grenade kind of thing. And Brad and Thomas actually are both the perfect personalities for that, because they are problem solvers. That's how their brain actually works. They thrive under a great deal of pressure and a great deal of because Brad, when he makes his plans, it's interesting to play against him. He has already basically planned out the whole game in his head. It's pretty crazy to watch him play the games. And so it's for him, when his matchup is his back is up against the wall, Brad can win the game with 3 models. It is very, very impressive. Not to take away from myself or Jamie. I mean, I think, I am whatever. But that when you're doing your pairings, you need to take that into consideration, in my opinion, as to your players and putting them into the roles that they can fulfill. Because not everybody can just go into matches all day and expect to lose. And even might have to lose, right? Not everybody can do that, but because Brad loves solving problems, it makes him such a strong player in that kind of role.
Someone's looking forward to games that are too tough to win. And
yeah, I do, man. I look forward to them. I'm dude, put me into that. Let me do it, and we'll see if I win.
Well, I'm gonna let us go on this. I just had some company that came over, but it was a great weekend. I had just honestly the most fun I've ever had in a tournament. Honest to goodness, us winning was really cool, but just I mean, you guys were amazing teammates, and we all supported each other really well. And that's the other thing about team events is like we're there. And Jamie, you kind of said this to me the other day, and I've been thinking about it, and I think it is a huge part of it is the bolstering and the camaraderie that you have. So even if you lose a game, you don't lose the round, right? Like so, it's this super cool feeling of where you don't get that in singles, right? You just out down.
Losing the game does not mean losing the round, and that is huge. And that's one of my favorite things about team events, just like you said.
Yep. Well, cool. Thanks everybody for watching, listening, doing all those things. Make sure to subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions, and stay tuned for all of our content. There's a lot of tournaments that we will be doing vlogs and content like this on, and obviously our weekly battle reports and live streams. And we will see you next time.